So let's take a look at this, guys. We sort of spoke about it already, but yeah, the first topic, last minute, the actors are going on strike. Andre, I know you want to talk about this straight away. I want to get your input. I want your opinion. What do you think? What's your thoughts?
Well, I'm of two minds. My first thought is, are they freaking crazy? Because here you've had like the writer's strike for a long, long time now, and the writer's strike, that is one that I can fully get behind because we have
Hmm.
persistent rumors that this is something that there is a desire for, that this is something that they can use to get force majeure, to get out of bad deals that they never should have gotten into. Like, for instance, one of the founders behind BLM that got like this massive multi-billion million deal that nothing ever came of. Well, now they can say, oh, it force majeure, out of it, doesn't happen anymore. And so many other deals have ended this way. So I can completely get that. And that is something that needs to go on for a little while longer. But then they have to go get back to business again, and then
Hmm.
hire the good writers, and not all of the diversity hires that have been driving the industry to the brink of collapse over the last few years here, because it's mostly a writer problem. So that's good and well. But then the actors go on strike as well. And here's like the thing that, to me, that's kind of like superfluous, because when the writers are on strike, it don't really matter about the actors, because eventually you're going to run out of proper products until writers, good or bad, start writing again.
Hmm.
All this means is that now things that were already in development have to be shut down anyway. So that
Yeah.
things that, for instance, were ready to go with scripts and everything, they could be filmed just fine before, as long as there was absolutely no changes to them on set. But now that's not happening anything. So this is something that, depending on how long this lasts, that has the potential to destabilize Hollywood for even longer. And of course, that's not going to matter for like the 1% of high-end A-list actors, but it's
Yeah.
disastrous for the vast, overwhelming majority of working actors
Hmm.
that live paycheck to paycheck, like most people.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that there's a business rationale behind it. I would imagine it is. I have not yet had time to look into it and research what that
Hmm.
rationale would be. There is nothing that instantly springs to my mind, though. So I would be very interested to hear what someone more informed on that matter than me has to say about it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, immediate effect. This is even affecting the Oppenheimer premiere because Emily Blunt and a whole bunch of other actors were like, "Yeah, we're going to walk out if a strike is actually called. We're just leaving instantly." So now it's called. They're done. They're literally leaving the premiere of Oppenheimer straight away, which looks awful.
Yeah,
Just
but
from a
yeah, but
PR
I do
situation,
understand that, because
awful.
basically, an actor's job is not done until the movie opens. Because depending
Mm,
on if they are above or below the line, for instance, the random extras in the background, they're not
yeah.
invited to premieres and stuff like that. But being at premieres, doing press, everything like that, that technically is part of their job as
Mm,
actors. They are
yeah,
supposed to
absolutely.
act happy and cheerful and stuff like that
Yeah.
for the red
and
carpet
to help
towards the
promote the
movie.
movie for the studios,
Yeah,
Yes.
but
Exactly.
now
which is
that part of
huge.
their job can't be done. Like, I don't think that Emily Blunt was saying that, oh, well, fuck you. Now we're not doing anything. We're like, well, because of the strike, we can't
Well, they
do
have
anything
to.
whether we want
They
to or
have
not.
to. They're
Yeah, they
union
have
members.
to.
That's
Otherwise,
part of what
they're.
it is. They have to do it.
I mean, what was like scabs? Is that what it's called if they don't?
Yeah.
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 Well, we do have the full statement here. So, SAG-AFTRA's television and theatrical streaming contracts have expired without a successor agreement. After more than 4 weeks of bargaining, the Alliance of Motion Pictures and Television Producers, the entity that represents major studios and streamers, including Amazon, Apple, Disney, NBC, Universal, all of them, remains unwilling to offer a fair deal on the key issues that are essential to SAG-AFTRA members. So, in the face of the AMPTP's intransigence and delay tactics, SAG-AFTRA's negotiating committee voted unanimously to recommend to the National Board a strike of the producers. SAG-AFTRA's TV theatrical streaming contracts have expired on July 12th, 2023 at 11:59 p.m. Pacific time. SAG-AFTRA's National Board will vote Thursday morning on whether to strike. And
Yeah,
obviously,
that's
they
done.
have now done that.
Yeah.
SAG-AFTRA's president, Fran Drescher, said SAG-AFTRA negotiated in good faith and was eager to reach a deal that sufficiently addressed performer needs. But the AMPTP's response to the union's most important proposals have been insulting and disrespectful of our massive contributions to this industry. The companies have refused to meaningfully engage on some topics and on others completely stonewalled us. Until they do negotiate in good faith, we cannot begin to reach a deal. We have no choice but to move forward in unity. And on behalf of our memberships, with a strike recommendation to our national board, the board will discuss the issue this morning. The decision's been made, just as an FYI. So the National Executive Director and Chief Negotiator said, the studios and streamers have implemented massive unilateral changes in our industry's business model, while at the same time insisting on keeping our contracts frozen in amber. Nice Jurassic Park reference. That's not how you treat a valued, respected partner and essential contributor. Their refusal to meaningfully engage with our key proposals and the fundamental disrespect shown to our members is what has brought us to this point. The studios and streamers have underestimated our members' resolve, as they are about to fully discover. Fucking brutal. So there is one last thing I want to cover, which is actually the statement from the AMPTP. We are deeply disappointed that SAG-AFTRA has decided to walk away from negotiations. This is the union's choice, not ours. In doing so, it has dismissed our offer of historic pay and residual increases, substantially higher caps on pension and health contributions, audition protections, shortened series option periods, a groundbreaking AI proposal that protects actors' digital likeness, and more. Rather than continuing to negotiate, SAG-AFTRA has put us on a course that will deepen the financial hardship for thousands who depend on the industry for their livelihood. So basically, they're saying, ha, 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 it's actually all your fault. You're to blame, and now you're gonna hurt everyone else. So boo, you should look terrible in the media. Culture, what do you think about this, especially upon hearing the statements?
Well, I think that there is an accurate portrayal by both sides of what's going on at the negotiating table. I feel like there's a lot of bad faith, especially on the studio side when it comes to negotiations, because this is something that absent 3 or 4 ridiculous proposals from the actors and screenwriters alike, that there was really some middle ground here that could have been conquered. But the problem is they really don't want the level of transparency that would be required to make a lot of these things come true. And you have studio heads coming out saying ridiculous things. Bob Iger, notoriously, is one of those people. He did today, came out against the actors and the writers, most directly the writers. Like I said, there are a couple of things I think are absolutely ridiculous. I think everybody on that panel would agree. But I think that, in order to get a deal together, you have to give a little bit on each side, and nobody's willing to give in. And to be fair, the reason that I think the studios are more to blame is because they are, as Andre indicated, happy to let this sit and spin through the fall.
I mean, I maybe in that respect, but as far as the other side of it, I find these actors outside of the AI business, I find it to be very greedy, because the actors already, especially the bigger ones, take a third, if not more, of the budget of what have we said here in a while? Like, the biggest problem is the budgets, right? Well, when you're handing over $30-40 million paydays to actors, that's a problem. Yeah, nobody needs that much money to be in a friggin' movie and play pretend. I'm sorry. And I do feel bad for some of the day players and stuff like that. But then again, if you were that good of an actor, you wouldn't be a day player. Like, that's the thing I look at it as. It's like, this is an industry where the cream of the crop always rises to the top. Even in the worst of times. So I have very little pity for the industry. I have very little pity for the actors. The writers I feel bad for, like Andre was saying, because they are people who are considered above the line but get paid below the line as far as like what they actually do in consideration to the overall story of a film. I mean, they are the story. I mean, without a story, you can't have a film. And the same can be said for actors, but guess what? You're playing pretend for a living. I feel about as bad as I do when like basketball players or baseball players or football players go on strike. You literally get to do what kids wish and hope they could do when they get older and do on the playground every day. and you get paid for it. Grow up. You now just put an entire industry on strike. So what about all the gaffers, the teamsters, the lighting folks, the sound folks, the camera folks, post-production folks, pre-production folks?
Well, they're done, aren't they? That's the thing.
They're not going to work now because of you.
Yeah, well, that's what the AMPTP's statement is trying to highlight, is that, you know, SAG-AFTRA is to blame, basically, for loads of people going jobless and potentially going homeless, which was actually stated to be, per Deadline's sources at studios. That is
Sorry,
actually
I'm not trying to be a soapbox, but yeah.
No. That is actually what the studio wanted to happen to the writers. Actually, they said that they're going to wait it out until they basically have no money and some of them go homeless. That was what.
Oh, yeah, and the industry it's all to blame.
Yeah. Nick, you want to chime in there, bud?
I agree with what Tom was saying. I feel the same way when I hear pro athletes when they're complaining. Also, you know, you're out there playing a sport, a game, getting paid millions of dollars. Same thing with these actors, you know, and it, at the end of the day, a lot of it comes down to greed. Just like they were saying. So, and then you got the finger pointing by both sides, you know, shooting back and forth. It's ridiculous, but yeah, it's going to be a shame come next year. We're probably going to have very little entertainment coming out because this writer's strike's been going on for a long time. And
over 72, 73 days, something like that.
And now that the actors are striking, you know, unless they come to an agreement or a resolution really quickly, you know, a lot of the entertainment for next year is we're probably not going to get a whole lot of anything.
Well, I think it's important to note actually that we won't get anything new, right?
Yeah.
But what we will get is actually a dilution of content because there's so much content that just sits on shelves.
Yep.
And they will be bringing out shit. Just stuff which has been sat on shelves, stuff which they didn't actually want to release. They didn't really know what to do with it.
Maybe that Batgirl will come out.
Well, they can't, can they? But the point is, well, I bet they wish they could now. But the point is that you whatever content does come out was obviously, you know, pre-done prior to all of this. But there's going to be expect the box office to get significantly worse, or surprisingly, might get better because there might not be stuff injected with a whole lot of current events and current political leanings. So there is swings and roundabouts there that actually some of it may actually improve a little bit, but it's probably not going to be, and it probably will be absolutely garbage that gets released because it will just be stuff which was sat on the shelf. They just didn't know what to do with it, which famously, there's a lot of stuff like that.
Which they don't have. How much do they have left after COVID though, Nate? Sorry, Culture, you were going to say something too.
No. Just to add what you're saying, not only do they not have much, but Tom, exactly how many products got buried as write-downs at the same time they knew this was coming? You know, you've ditched.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, that tells me that they know they're hitting a wall, right? Yeah. And this is what I've been saying for a while. The final is kind of coming to fruition. We'll get into Bob Iger's statements probably a little bit here in a bit, and I haven't got a chance to see this interview yet, but I've heard a little bit of the stuff that's come out of it. The full thing doesn't drop online until 9 p.m. tonight, unless you have cable like a boomer. He couldn't have seen it until so I don't have that, so I didn't see it. But they don't have as much as they usually would, Nate. That's the thing. When all these write-downs, they can't just pull them out, right? You can't just dust it off now and be like, oh, here you go. Here's a Batgirl.
You are absolutely right. And I think someone, Albion in the chat has said something which is perfectly valid and actually something which I'm really, really saddened by. Is that this will largely be the final nail in the coffin for theatre chains. And I'm sad about it because my local theatre just on Friday, literally last week, without warning, just a A4 piece of print out on the doors. We're done. We're gone. We're closed. That's it. Administration, bankruptcy, basically. But you will get a lot more of this. And those theatres that do survive will have a significant, which is good actually, will have a significant, amount more of bargaining power against the studios and the percentage deal that they get. because they'll be like, well, you've literally just fucked us for how long? Like
They were
we've
already
had,
in that
we've had a bad
position,
deal.
Nate, but like, yeah, I mean, the
Even more
theaters
is what I
aren't
mean.
in as bad as a position financially over here as they were over there. But because like over here, you had almost the opposite effect. Sure, there was some that had closed down, but you actually had a bunch of drive-ins and stuff open up
Yeah,
here in the US
yeah,
as
we,
Yeah.
a lot of them reopened.
a surge. And
500, I think. Yeah,
yeah, at least. And there was a time
Wow.
we only had like 3 or 4 left in the US.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love a drive-in. Drive-ins are sick.
Yeah, so they made a huge comeback with COVID, but the theaters will go on. They will not go quietly in the night. They will survive. They will
Well, they haven't here.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Over here,
That's the
though, they
thing. Yeah,
managed
it's
to
crazy.
with COVID, and that was the thing. They played sporting events, they played concerts,
Yeah.
they played older films, they played.
Well, you say that.
Yeah.
That was exactly the same here, though. That my theater, I managed to watch The Shining during COVID. I also managed to watch Akira, Japanese, full-blown Japanese. I watched a whole bunch of older films being re-released in that theater, but sadly they've still had to close. So, but anyway, again, not to get off too much of a sidetrack there. Look, it sucks primarily because we're part of the industry as well, ladies and gents, watching this. Expect a whole lot more retrospectives. Expect a whole lot more random bits and pieces to come out on channels such as this, because again, if we're commenting on the industry and the industry isn't doing anything, it's everything's changed. I mean, I'm sure I speak for most people here. We have the ability to diversify our sort of topical content. I mean, even here on this podcast, we've spoken about a variety of things which I wouldn't do on the main channel itself. But again, you can't do that in the other part of the industry. That's it; they're wrecked now. But you are right. I will side with you, Tom, on that. Is that there is a significant amount of greed, massively involved in all of this. I will say, just to highlight quickly, they talk
on
about
all
AI
sides too. I don't want to make it sound like I was just blaming one side over the other.
No, you're completely right. But they do comment about AI. So with respect to AI, the Guild has said that artificial intelligence has already proven to be a real and immediate threat to the work of our members and can mimic members' voices, likeness, and performances. We must get agreement around acceptable uses, bargain protections against misuse, and ensure consent and fair compensation for the use of your work to train AI systems and create new performances. In their public statements and policy work, the companies have not shown a desire to take our members' basic rights to our own voices and likenesses seriously.
This is incredibly
that is one of the major sticking points on both sides, the actors and the writers. It's a lot of it is AI, and the reason why, and it comes straight back to your comment here, Tom, is money, because they can get AI to do things cheaply, quickly, done. The same with writing, same with the likeness, and that's why.
But that's why you're right, and but this is important, and I just wanted to add context, Nate, because you guys are on the right track. But this is why Sarah Silverman and a lot of others are now suing the AI entities themselves, because their works are being utilized to create language models to write in their style or whatever else. That is incredibly ethically wrong. I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, and it's a gross violation of somebody's intellectual thought processes, et cetera, et cetera. I'm on the side of them. I mean, as much as I don't like Sarah at all, in many of these writers,
this is the one side where I agree too, because the only thing I don't understand is why wasn't this shit addressed back in the days of Forrest Gump? Because I thought that the actors already kind of addressed this stuff with the whole idea of, we can do this, but you got to pay us. And that's when we got Fred Astaire dancing with a vacuum, right? Famously. I don't understand how this isn't already part of the deal. It, to me, would fall under the same category as CGI. It's computer generated images, right? At the end of the day. But at the same time, it does need to be addressed, because it is technology that is advancing much faster than I think we even really know how to use it yet.
They don't have a handle on it. I mean, there's
no.
I mean, look, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I again, not to labor this particular topic for too long, because we do have some spicier things for you to enjoy us talking about. But I think it'll be interesting to see how this moves along. And the reason being, closing thoughts, is that this potentially will be the linchpin that causes the studios to make a bargain with everyone else. Or they'll just dig the heels in and say, F you, we're not doing it at all. Right? Because they can't wait out the actors. Because the actors are minted. They have so much money. They can wait out the writers, but they can't wait out the actors. The large player actors have a whole host of cash flow that they don't need to worry about getting a paycheck from a studio. So their tactic with the writers doesn't hold weight when it comes down to actors. So it'll be interesting to see how this how this ends up. Any closing thoughts, guys?
I'm just kicking back.
Just
throwing the popcorn.
No. Could have just said no, Nick, but all right, yeah, cool. Coach.
Nick's like, I got my popcorn here watching things just, explode around.
Fall apart.
Yeah, fairly. Look, I'm fairly certain that this is going to make it well into fall. I have a feeling that we'll be looking at winter, and this is still, they'll cut a deal. The writers are going to be the ones that are going to suffer the most, as has been pointed out by you and Tom and Andre.
Yeah.
But they were prepared for this. I mean, if you talk to people in this industry, which I fortunately am able to, and so are all of you guys, they've essentially said, that they were ready for this. Maybe they're not ready for as long as they thought that it's going to end up being, but we'll end up seeing at the end of the day. There are some things I can't help but agree with them on, and the AI stuff is like for front and center.
Basic. Most people could agree with that. It's so basic. Just compensate like that's someone's actual image. Like nonsense. Andre, I know you had to pop out there, but you're back now. You got any closing thoughts there, bud?
Well, first, I think you made a really good observation there about the actors that can wait this out, because they have enough money for 10 generations to come. But that is a minority of actors. Sadly, they are the ones calling the shots over Saga and everything like that, right? The ones I think are going to suffer the most are going to be the working actors, because the writers, they are used to going long periods without work. They earn like proper amounts for one gig, but then they are used to budget for the fact that there may be 2 years before they get another, right? Whereas the working actors, many of them, they are used to, they go from one project to another. They have like 2 projects lined up at any given time. And what that gives them is what you might call a very normal salary. In fact, many of them still have to be waiters and stuff like that on the side. This is the norm for the vast majority of actors. They are the ones that's going to be suffering for this, because they, like most people, may only be living from foot to mouth. They may not have any major savings, anything like that. So the ones that SAG is really screwing over here, in order to satisfy their big members, their Robert D. Downey Jr.'s and stuff like that, right? They're screwing over the majority and everyone else. They're the ones that
agree.
Well, and like I said, even more so, it's not just the actors, because like I said, if a good actor is good, they would be making more money. But at the end of the day, it's all the other little people, the below the line folks.
Yeah.
It's all the folks that don't get big paydays, who don't get lucky enough to make a couple $100,000 on a gig. The gaffers, the lighters, the sound guys, all that stuff. The guys who build the sets. I mean, they have more steady work, yes, but they get paid, basically what you would consider quote unquote blue collar wages, right? Like they work 80-hour weeks and are lucky to make just over twice minimum wage if they're lucky in some cases, I bet.
Yeah. No, I agree. It'll be interesting.
And those are the ones who are not going to be working now. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it will be interesting nonetheless to see sort of how this moves along.